Handicamp is a week-long holiday run by the Rotary Club of Medway. Their commitment to the venture illustrates the worldwide motto of Rotary, which is service above self.
Could I say a very big welcome to Handicamp 1998 and a very big thank you from all of us on the staff for giving up a very valuable week of your holiday. What you are about to experience is something quite unique. You will, at the end of this week, be extremely tired, more than extremely tired, exhausted, but at the end of the day we will have given 30 very seriously disabled children a week, a memorable week's holiday. That's the one thing we need to bear in mind for the whole week, is that we're here for the children arriving.
Start unloading the supplies that will be necessary to keep the youngsters fed and watered for the duration of the holiday. Before what for some will be their last good night's sleep for a week, the nurses brief each of the helpers on the disability of their guests who will be arriving the next day. Early next morning, the daily helpers arrive from other Rotary clubs in the district to begin the task of preparing 120 rounds of sandwiches for the picnic lunches each day, while the resident staff start to prepare the buses for their important passengers who will be arriving any minute. Their first stop is with the nurses, who check the notes they have on each guest. It's vitally important to make sure they're accurate, since care of the child will now rest with the Rotary Club of Medway. In some cases, the youngsters need special equipment such as breathing aids and nebulizers. Others appear very normal, but have hidden problems, such as we found out later with this young lad. It's important when the guests arrive to make them feel at ease. For some, it's an easier task than others, for whom the whole experience can be quite nerve-wracking. After an Easter egg hunt to break the ice, events really begin with swimming in the school pool, the only environment that enables even the blind ones to be on equal terms with their newfound able-bodied friends. Well, almost. It's here the weightlessness of the pool enables most physically disabled youngsters to enjoy the freedom to move normally, whereas they're usually wheelchair-bound, dependent on others for everything. For some, though, it still provides a huge obstacle which requires extra special measures to let them feel the freedom and comfort that floating in a warm pool provides. It's difficult to imagine the helplessness which some of our disabled guests endure for the whole of their lives. Every evening there's a different form of entertainment provided by volunteer artists who are delighted to make the guests rock and roll. The next day is totally different, as the youngsters experience the thrill of being driven over the rough ground of a nearby country park in police four-wheel drive vehicles. As well as playing off-road cops and robbers, they love splashing through puddles and the bumpy ride through the trees. They might be fragile youngsters, but they still want to feel the exhilaration of life as they speed down the motorway in a marked patrol car being driven by a first-class police driver. After a police escort to the next venue, everyone boards a ferry on the River Thames for a leisurely cruise to look at the sights of the river. This cruise also had its high drama when one of our guests lapsed into unconsciousness and we had to call an ambulance. It's at times like this that the nursing staff are vital. In this case, they were able to monitor the patient until the arrival of paramedics, who, having checked on the lad's condition, were then able to assist in his evacuation up the side of the vessel and then to hospital, where he awoke without any apparent ill effect a few hours later. There's always someone else to keep them entertained. There are plenty of characters among the helpers to lift their spirits.
Circle on the front, but it's a square on the back.
They'll need all the energy they can muster for the makeup, dressing up and the acting the day is to require of them. The day includes some energetic action and improvisation for those who can manage it, for themselves. The hotel staff are not used to a clientele quite like this, but then the diners are not exactly used to hotel restaurants either. Experienced Rotarians, though, have learned how to conserve their energy. Some of the youngsters will never be old enough to go to a real live disco, so this was their chance to enjoy the lights and sounds of the fully equipped music venue on the end of the pier. The week is full of contrasts, so when the police umpire band turn up, the youngsters get to learn about the different brass instruments, as well as learning a little German. By the end of the evening, any inhibition that existed has truly gone. After a long day, it's time for bed. And when you're restricted to a wheelchair, you need all the help you can get to wash and undress. This is the time when the nurses in the team are most vital to take care of the medical needs of the children. It's also the time when the young helpers realise the restrictions of being paralysed. Meanwhile, the rest of the team discuss the day's events at the nightly briefing and plan the staffing arrangements for the horse riding, swimming and helicopter flights tomorrow. The following morning we all woke up to a heavy snow which caused a few problems with the programme. As it turned out, the horses were still working, and although it was a bitterly cold day, it was nothing to what these youngsters had endured in their short lives, so they made the most of everything. Eventually the helicopters were able to take off, so the planned events of the day were reinstated, and the alternative arrangements were put off for later in the week. The smiles on the faces of the guests during the flight and as they landed were testimony to the experience of a lifetime as far as they were concerned. While the more active enjoyed the experience to the full, even those in wheelchairs were able to take part and enjoy their success in the game. Thorpe Park was the venue for the next day's amusements. Andrew couldn't get in there quick enough. Once inside, it was easy to see why. He thoroughly enjoyed the whole day.
So it's like I'm trying a minute.
On Handicamp, a guest wish is our command. Even when it involves getting wet and soggy, because in no time at all, they'll want to be spun dry in the teacup ride, before the thrill of the scenic railway. It's where the helpers find that once is not enough, and they wish they hadn't had so much lunch. By now, all the youngsters have shared a myriad of experiences, and the bonding is beginning to show. Soon, the partnerships will be sealed to the point where they'll remember each other for the rest of their lives. But before doing so, there's time to say a thank you to the organisers and nursing staff for the hard work they've put in day and night. It's about this time we all know it will only be a few hours before we have to say goodbye. And by now, there's a strong attachment to all those youngsters we've come to care for during the week. Feelings are getting close to the surface. It's difficult to imagine how the parents of these special children cope day in, day out, which is another reason why Handicamp is so worthwhile, for the break it gives them too. As soon as the disco gets into full swing, everyone forgets how different they are and the problems they have. For the organisers, it's time to relax at least a little bit. But the satisfaction that comes from seeing the smiling faces soon gets to the back of the mind, as towards the end of the evening, the youngsters realise Handicamp doesn't last forever. Eventually, there's a final gathering to say last thank yous.
Now then is make sure that our guests get with the right people that are going to take them home, say our goodbyes and we'll be on our way. So, before we go, is everybody happy?
By the time our guests leave, there's not a dry eye amongst the helpers and organisers. Everyone is very tired, but also grateful for having had the honour to be part of the very humbling but satisfying experience that is Handicamp.